Hello everyone, what is up? It is me, Ewan from WhatCulture Gaming, joined as ever by Josh Brown.
Hello.
To talk to you today about a thing that is occurring in the gaming industry, and it could potentially spell bad news for E3. Yes, our favourite entertainment electronic expo. I think I've done that in the right order.
I think you have as well. That's really impressive.
Yeah, I think the three E's, that was the three.
Who is it?
I can count. That's brilliant. There are certain things going on in the world right now that are going to cause potentially a bit of a headache for the gaming convention, and we're already seeing that come through because yesterday the creative directors behind the ESA's E3 2020 basically pulled out. I am an 8-bit, and they released a statement yesterday saying, the health and safety of our attendees, exhibitors, partners, and staff is our top priority. While the ESA continues to plan for a safe and successful E3 show, we are monitoring and evaluating the situation daily. We are actively assessing the latest information and will continue to develop measures to further reduce health risks at the show. And this is the actual thing that was the ESA said. And I'm 8-bit said, it's with mixed emotions that we have decided to resign as creative directors of what was to be an evolutionary E3 2020 floor experience. We produced hundreds of gaming plus community events, and it was a dream to be involved with E3. We wish the organisers the best of luck.
Yeah, so it just kind of seems like it's one thing after another for E3 at the moment. We had a bunch of companies pull out earlier in the year. We had Sony say that the creative approach of this year's E3 wasn't appropriate for what they wanted to do with their games. So we had Jeff Keighley pull out. Now we've got the creative director, the company behind the creative vision for E3 2020 pull out. And of course, this is compounded by LA declaring a state of emergency because of ongoing events and stuff. And it just feels like, for me, E3 just kind of need to throw in the towel. I think it would be the best to sort of, recuperate, essentially. Regroup,
reassess,
do all that stuff,
reevaluate.
All of the big R's, and then come back next year strong, because I think that we were all kind of worried about what E3 was going to be this year. They promised a major overhaul, but from what was leaked and what was rumored, that doesn't seem to have been a fit with what E3 normally is. It was going to be a big kind of influencer-heavy, marketing-driven.
Scott loves to mention the chits.
The chits, and
FOMO.
FOMO, yeah, it was all of those buzzwords essentially trying to be a show, and I think that's why a lot of the big companies eventually bowed out, because it just wasn't meshing up with what us as fans and enthusiasts know E3 as, and that might be better or worse, but it clearly hasn't worked because now the creative director has jumped ship essentially 3 months, 2 months before it was going to go ahead?
Yeah,
3 months?
It's a bit of a concern, especially because, I don't think anyone really kind of thought that last year's E3 was anything particularly to write home about.
No.
And we're seeing over the course of the last 5 years that more and more gaming companies have opted to move away from E3 and basically have their own gaming events where they can announce their own things on their own terms, which is a big shame because I have a lot of nostalgia for E3. I remember staying up really late and watching all the live streams from other outlets like IGN and Giant Bomb and everyone. So it's a little bit of a shame that, this could potentially be a big spanner in the works. The main concern that I have, and this is something that's being said by, the likes of Jason Schreier, and I think Patrick Koplek from Waypoint, or Vice Gaming rather, has said that, there is a huge concern now that if E3 were to not go ahead this year, that gaming companies who then missed it and did their own direct style, announcements and stuff, they could look at that and go, well, we didn't really miss anything from this. Why should we bother returning for 2021?
That is obviously the big question. I'm not sure why I fall in this, because I do think a lot of companies will realize that they don't necessarily need E3. E3 is this established behemoth in the gaming industry, and for a long time that was the gaming event of the year. But like you said, over the past couple of years, over the past
it's the Ubisoft dances. Dances.
Come on, just bring the Ubisoft Just Dance back. And just bring it back for their own show.
Tsushima flute player.
I mean, that was all awesome. The theatrics of E3 can never be sort of repeated in my eyes, because like you said, there is a certain anticipation that comes with even being 25 and staying up until the early hours of the morning to watch Sony's show to see what mad theatrics they've got on their stage. But at the same time, that might just not make logistical sense in the year of our Lord 2020. Companies might realize they don't necessarily need it. Microsoft has been a staunch supporter of E3, even as other companies pull out. So I'm going to be interested to see how they respond, because I think if they just up and decide they don't need it, I think that might be the end of E3, at least as we know it now, maybe really in general.
Yeah, and that's a massive shame again. Like, you know, like we said, we were massive fans of E3, and I think even though the last few years have kind of been disappointments, I want to say, at least for me personally, it's a shame that we're going to move away from this model, and it's one of those things where I feel as though you have to adapt, and there is a lack of spectacle, with just kind of sitting at home waiting for the next direct to pop up or whatever it is. It's a good time, it's a fun time, but there is something about just having a dedicated gaming weekend where you have to look at everything and everything gets announced, and it's absolutely incredible. It all comes into the part of the buzz, the whole thing, the hype machine that we all kind of get invested in every year. So again, this is such a big thing, and it's kind of mad to me that, what if E3 2019 was the last E3?
That's sad. I would have liked a proper big send-off, but it might just be one of those things that just kind of, like you said, fades away. For me, I think it's too established to not at least get a couple of more wind-down ones. I think we'll start seeing it properly go when we see, lowering attendance, because they've opened it up to, consumers now, so they are paying for tickets to get in, so that's another sort of revenue stream that supports them. But at the same time, I mean, when it comes to businesses, it's great for us to have a gaming Christmas weekend, but it might not make the most sense for these companies who are essentially vying for headlines. When everything's happening at once, it's easier for some games or some developers or some publishers to just fly under the radar and not get the response that they perhaps deserved, whereas if they did their own dedicated thing, that might work better for them, because then they're not actively, competing with anyone else. They're not competing with Sony announcing potentially a PlayStation 5 or Microsoft talking about the Xbox Series X. They're getting their spotlight entirely to themselves, and they can dominate the headlines for a couple of days.
But you missed the instant gratification of Xbox One, Microsoft announcing the Xbox One and being like, this is how you trade games, and then PlayStation coming around the next day and just going, this is how you trade games in the PlayStation 4. Iconic.
It is.
It's one of the best moments ever.
Yeah.
Just one of the best moments of all time. And it's kind of a shame that, there is the potential that this may not go ahead anymore. I'm kind of curious to see what this means for other gaming conventions as well that aren't necessarily on the same scale as E3. We had the likes of your PAX East, your PAX Wests, your GDCs.
Of course.
That occurs, I think, both in Europe and in America. I think.
Yes, definitely.
So again, that's concerning there as well. And as the world kind of adapts to the different emergencies going on at the moment, it's kind of curious to see how these conventions are going to recover in the next few years.
Yeah, because I mean, like GDC was the big one that everyone just kind of pulled out of it, and then they decided, right, we're not going to go ahead with this. And I feel like we're seeing that all across different industries, like around the world. Comics, games, movies are essentially shutting down. It does make a sense from a public health perspective, but at the same time, I wonder how this is going to have a knock-on effect. Because it's not just going to affect this year, like you said, it's going to have ramifications in the future, and how these companies recover, and if these companies can recover, and if these events can recover, is an entirely different question. For me, I think E3 will survive just because of its name brand alone. I do think we'll see it come back, but I worry about others, but maybe it's a good opportunity for them to come back and sort of come back in a big way, like fill a gap that perhaps was lacking this year, and then come back with GDC or PAX or something next year to be bigger and better than ever. I can only hope, anyway.
Yeah. I mean, it's not dead yet. We should probably clarify that. After IM8bit announced that they were going, E3 responded by saying, "We confirm that they're no longer part of the interagency group working on E3 2020. We greatly value their passion for the video game industry and the contributions they brought towards our vision for this year's show. We have an innovative and experienced team in place, including Endeavor's creative agency, 160/90, event innovators Matt and Low, and longtime E3 partners GES, Dolahar Events, and Double Forte, all collaborating to bring to life an exciting and authentic experience for fans, the media, and the industry." Now, this is just, again, it's another thing, is that it happens in June, it's only a few more months away. How confident are we that they're actually going to be able to bring a show?
I don't know, because I'm of two minds. I think we might see the actual event itself and the floor where all the games are playable perhaps shut down just because of the what's going on and the threat of that. But at the same time, I don't think there's anything perhaps stopping them from live streaming
just having an E3 Direct.
Just having an E3 Direct, essentially live stream it across the world. So then you still you get all of the gaming news, you get everything that we get excited for, but you don't get the actual event. And perhaps that's an interesting way to compromise a little bit without going away and still delivering something. I don't know how feasible that is logistically. I'm sure it will disappoint so many people who are looking forward to going, but in the interest of what's going on, perhaps that could work with rather than just cancelling it outright. I'm not entirely sure.
I mean, we already know that Sony aren't going to attend this year.
Yes.
So I think Microsoft, are Microsoft still going?
The last we heard, they confirmed that they definitely were going to be there.
We have the likes of Ubisoft as well that I think were considering their future and stuff. So again, it all depends to see, as much as we can say, maybe they could could still do a direct thing. That it all is dependent on the actual people showing up at the end of the day. And if more and more publishers get concerned regarding the situation, then maybe, this is going to be taken out of their hands effectively. It's one thing for, the creative directors to pull out. It's another thing entirely for the people who actually make the show to then just call it quits.
Definitely. I mean, we don't know how this has affected things like the production of the next-gen consoles or something, because there's been rumors that, obviously, like, the industry shutting down have affected the manufacturing of those, and that could be why we haven't heard any updates from Microsoft or Sony. And at the moment, it's just kind of like, we don't know. We don't really know what the future is holding at the moment.
Territory.
We are in uncharted territory. No one really knows. Everyone's just assessing the situation, and hopefully we'll find out soon.
Yeah, but please let us know what you think about E3's current situation down in the comments below. Will you be sad to see it potentially go, or do you believe it's going to mount a great comeback? Once done that, please be sure to like, share, and subscribe, and head back on over to whatculture.com/gaming for more news, lists, and articles like this every day. You can follow me on Twitter at YourMoonsThings. You can follow Josh on Twitter at
Josh Broom with 2 O's.
And we'll see you next time.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye. Bye. Bye. Hey, Ewan, how do you trade games? Like this? Like that.
I got it. The game.